unseen scaffolding that supports a huge construction project. And today, that's exactly what we're exploring. We're taking a deep dive into Poland, specifically what's really unfolding beneath the headlines today, September 8th, 2025. Our mission really is to go beyond the spectacle, to uncover that crucial scaffolding being built. Things like border management, national security, and economic stability. What are the quiet, persistent actions shaping Poland's future right now?
Exactly. And our role here for you is to try and connect these threads. They might seem disparate, the border, security, the economy, but we want to show their collective importance. How do these individual pieces actually form a resilient whole? How are they directing the nation's strategic path?
Okay. And to guide us, we're drawing from a very specific intelligence briefing. It's titled Polska. Aktualności. Granicy Gospodarka. Okay. It's basically a real-time snapshot from today, September 8th, and it's rich with actionable details. So yeah, let's unpack this snapshot of Poland. Let's see what's truly driving things. Maybe we should start with something that hits directly at, trade and just everyday movement. The border. Our briefing is pretty clear that border friction is back on simmer again, specifically at the Poland-Ukraine crossings. This recurring thing, this challenge, and it seems to be resurfacing now. The intel points to fragile talks with farm groups as the underlying cause here, which means, practically speaking, that localized slowdowns are definitely back on the table. So this isn't just some distant political issue, right? It's a direct operational challenge for anyone involved in cross-border stuff.
Mm-hmm. And what's really fascinating here, I think, is how quickly the system adapts. Not just the government, but the logistics industry itself. It's not just being seen as a problem. It's a real-time test of logistical resilience. And it's being met with, agility. Our source confirms carriers are already rerouting via less congested crossings, trying to get around potential bottlenecks. That's proactive. And intermodal operators, the ones coordinating different transport types, they're smartly keeping spare rail slots as a backstop. Mm-hmm. It's this multi-layered approach to just keep goods moving, which is, a crucial beam in the nation's economic scaffolding, right?
Yeah, that level of foresight is really telling. And for you listening, consider the ripple effect. These delays, even if they're localized, they can stress supply chains. They could potentially influence consumer prices or just the availability of goods you might be looking for. It's all connected. The briefing specifically flags 2 crossings to keep an eye on immediately. Medyka Shahini and Dorohusk Yahodin. Okay, so from those logistical challenges on the ground, let's turn our gaze upwards to the skies and the critical dance of national security. This is where we see Poland navigating its eastern flank challenges. And there are some intriguing diplomatic moves quietly unfolding too. The briefing highlights that air policing stays elevated along the border. Now, this isn't just a casual measure. It's a direct consequence, it says, of recent Russian strikes on Ukraine. So what does this quick scramble posture really signify for Poland's overall readiness?
Well, it signifies a sustained state of readiness. It seems like it's become the new normal, really. This isn't just reacting to one specific incident. It's about maintaining a robust, continuous deterrent. It speaks to a deep understanding of the geopolitical realities, the necessity of constant vigilance. It's like reinforcing the protective roof of their national security scaffolding.
Right, the continuous defense posture is certainly clear. And alongside it, there's significant diplomatic activity happening. Our source mentions Warsaw-Rome follow-through after the Naraki-Maloney meet. So this refers to new working groups kicking off between Poland and Italy, focused specifically, it says, on defense co-production and migration coordination. It sounds like critical shared strategy on 2 very complex issues.
It really is. And the briefing also sheds light on Poland's, delicate balance, supporting neighbors while managing its own risks. The Paris Safe Skies track is mentioned as a prime example. Poland actively leans into air defense support for Ukraine. That's a clear commitment. But at the same time, it's carefully avoiding steps that risk direct entanglement. Which really raises that crucial question, doesn't it? How do nations support allies without crossing their own red lines? It's like a masterclass in strategic diplomacy under, immense pressure.
It truly is a high-wire act.
Yeah.
Definitely. And then on the domestic front, there's this consistent sort of pragmatic theme running through Poland's defense procurement. The briefing notes that air defense and munitions buys continue to prioritize local assembly and maintenance footprints. This isn't just about getting equipment for the military, is it?
Oh, not at all, no. This is a very strategic economic decision as well. By prioritizing local assembly, local maintenance, Poland is simultaneously boosting its own domestic industry, creating jobs, ensuring technology transfer, safer and, crucially, building long-term self-sufficiency. So it's about security, yes, but it's also about building a stronger economic foundation, securing a degree of independence in its defense capabilities. It's a cornerstone, really, for their long-term security scaffolding.
Makes sense. And for tangible signs of this readiness and cooperation, our source points to mod updates, specifically on layered air defense deployments and exercises with allies. Those are the key watch points this week. Okay, so all this talk of borders, security, it ultimately impacts the national purse, right? So let's turn our attention to the economic pulse of Poland. The National Bank of Poland, the NBP, is definitely a key player to watch this week. After last week's interest rate trim, the NBP's current guidance just reads as data dependent. Now, that might sound like jargon, but what does data dependent truly tell us about their approach right now?
Yeah, it signifies a highly cautious stance. Pragmatic, really. The NBP isn't committing itself to a specific future path for rates, not yet. Instead, they're basically saying, we're waiting for clear, undeniable signals from the economy, things like inflation figures, employment numbers, growth data. They need that input before making more moves on interest rates. It's a nuanced dance, balancing the need to manage inflation with supporting economic growth. They're reacting to the information as it comes in, carefully measuring the next step for their monetary policy scaffolding.
That makes perfect sense. The markets are definitely watching this closely. The briefing tells us that markets eye the next inflation print in PLN's range versus EUR. For those of you following this, the zloty's value against the euro, the PLN-UR rate, that's a critical barometer. Yeah, a stable range there reflects Poland's economic health, trade stability, investor confidence. Any significant shifts here can have real implications for trade, imports, exports. It really paints a picture of how the global economy is viewing Poland's financial landscape right now. Okay, diving a bit deeper into the business world itself, our source highlights some persistent challenges, especially for the small and medium-sized enterprises, the SMEs. It says, energy and transport costs remain the swing factors for SMEs. And these aren't just abstract numbers, right? They're direct hits to the bottom line for countless businesses across Poland. And even for the larger players, like exporters, the picture seems a bit mixed. They report steady orders but tight margins, which signals, I guess, strong demand, but also that profitability is under some serious pressure.
Mm-hmm. That point about exporters is quite insightful, actually. It shows that, yes, global demand for Polish goods is still there. That's positive. But those tight margins, they suggest the costs of doing business are really biting, likely due to those same energy and transport costs you mentioned, or maybe broader global supply chain issues. They're eroding profitability. It highlights a really common challenge in the current global economic climate, doesn't it? Strong demand doesn't automatically mean easy profits. Businesses are really having to work hard just to maintain their position. It's another, stress point on that economic scaffolding.
Absolutely. And for you, the listener, think about how these swing factors for SMEs, these energy and transport costs, how they can eventually translate into changes in the prices you see in stores or for services you use. It's the cost of doing business eventually passed down the chain. So on the economics front, our watch points for the week include any NBP commentary nudging rate path expectations, also the PLN reaction to Eurozone data, and watching front-end yields for hints of the next move, which are, essentially the short-term interest rates on government bonds. They often act as a kind of real-time market barometer for what investors think the NBP might do next. So what does this all mean when we put the pieces together? The border, security, the economy. Our source actually sums it up beautifully, I think. It brings us back to that idea of quiet directional momentum. It really is all about building that vital scaffolding. The overarching theme, the core takeaway from this intelligence briefing today is this, quote, momentum today is quiet but directional. Keep trucks moving, keep skies covered, and keep the rate path optional. Less spectacle, more scaffolding. The kind that pays off when the week gets noisy. Yeah. That really crystallizes the strategic approach Poland seems to be taking right now.
It really does encapsulate the underlying strategy, doesn't it? It's pragmatic. It's proactive management focused on national well-being. It's about building resilience in these absolute key areas, logistics, defense, monetary policy. Even when things on the surface might seem calm, it's the foresight, that methodical preparation that ultimately defines a nation's ability to respond effectively later on, to weather storms, to capitalize on opportunities when they arise. It's about being ready for anything, not just reacting to what's immediately in front of you, continuously reinforcing that national scaffolding.
It's a powerful statement, isn't it? About quiet strength and strategic foresight.
Yeah.
And for you listening, we really encourage you to observe how these seemingly small directional actions might play out, how they might gain importance throughout the week. Think of these as the early warning signs, maybe, or the foundations being laid for bigger stories that could emerge down the line. This deep dive into our source material, it's really shown us that Poland's current stability is built on these meticulous, often unseen actions across border management, national security, economic policy.
hmm And in an era like ours, with constant information flow, where every headline is shouting for attention, the true challenge isn't just knowing what happened yesterday or even today, it's understanding what's being prepared to happen. How much of what we perceive as quiet right now is actually laying the groundwork, piece by piece, for what might be a much noisier future? It's a question worth pondering, I think, as we all navigate this increasingly complex world.
Yeah, it's a powerful reminder. Sometimes the most important stories, really, are the ones quietly unfolding in the background.